And today we're going to talk about Kratom. And that's a drug that is often marketed as natural and safe, but actually carries some serious real risks for addiction. And there's overdoses that can occur, and even worse, long-term health problems, stuff that doesn't go away quickly.
But fast forward to present time, now you can get, at least here in California, it's become a pretty common over the counter drug that you can get in almost any head shop, holistic place that is selling different types of herbs. Obviously, the weed shops around this place, and I'm sure others, it's just become very attainable and normal where people think because it's so easy to get your hands on, then it can't possibly be dangerous.
Some people call it gas station heroin. It is a serious drug. And for those that don't know what it is, kratom it is a plant that's native to Southeast Asia. And it's sold in all kinds of forms. It's sold in powders, capsules, teas, extracts, and they sell it as a natural energy booster or a safe pain reliever. And the issue with it is that kratom acts on the same brain opioid receptors, which means it mimics the effects of opioids and it causes dependency. So then there's also, with that comes withdrawal, and then in some cases, life threatening consequences. Yeah.
In California, a lot of people believe weed's not bad because it's a plant medicine type thing. But I think the difference here is it's more closely to opium, which is also natural, but it's highly addictive because it is an opiate. And so it's not weed or these other things where maybe it is natural and holistic, but it has a physical, mental, spiritual dependency that is unlike that of other types of plant medicine.
And something else is there's no regulation on the stuff. There's none. And so there's no standard way of doing it. So there's a lot of contaminated kratom. A lot of the time it can be mislabeled or even stronger than people realize. So there's just no safe regulation on this terrible drug.
I don't think they realized how physically dependent they became on it. And so to support a physical dependency of an opioid type drug, it becomes extremely costly to the individual. And this is again how addiction gets really bad because now people have this habit that they need to support that they need. And so they're spending anywhere from 300 to 500 to $600 a month just to support this habit that used to make them feel really good, but now they need it just to feel well.
Oh,
And that's where the side effects of addiction can come in because people need to support that habit. And the more they're in that physically addictive need of to support a habit, that's where criminality and unethical things occur in order to support that.
yeah, you run out of money and you have to start doing things to support the habit. But if you're taking between 20 and 50 grams at 10 to $20 an ounce, you're spending $330 a month up to $660 a month. And that's when you really start to notice, wow, this is a problem in my life. And then families start to notice, especially with a lot of young users. People are trying to get high and avoid fentanyl and still get those same effects. And they go to something this, or they use fentanyl, but they had a bad experience, or they felt it was too dangerous, or maybe they saw a friend overdosed. And then they go to this as a lesser of evils. It's going to affect your wallet and your health. And that's really wild to hear how much a gas station drug could cost somebody a month.
Well, and because it is an opiate, unlike, say, mushrooms or other types of quote unquote plant medicines, you can actually overdose on kratom. You could take a fatal dose. You can die. There is those side effects that, again, is that on the warning label? Does anyone care who's buying it? But it is a real situation that can occur. And so, again, the reason for our podcast here is to educate people and families, and hopefully even people that are struggling with this as being a truly dangerous drug that's not being talked about. It's not being regulated. It's become acceptable because you can buy it, much alcohol at a corner store. So it downplays the dangerous effects that are still very prevalent and can happen to somebody.
If you're using kratom, you're likely using other substances too. The big problem is when you mix high doses of kratom with alcohol or benzos, Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, and that's when the overdose events really occur, is that mixture of drugs. CDC analysis found that there was 91 overdose deaths, 27,000 cases of overdose, and 91 people died. But only 7 were with kratom alone. So kratom can lead to death if you use too much of it, but the rest involves mixing substances.
Well, and as we've seen coming into the program, so we have to do urinalysis tests when they get there because a lot of times people don't even realize the magnitude of the drugs that they're on. They think they've been getting one kind of pill from their neighbor, and then when they get to us, we're you've been taking fentanyl. They're wait, what? No. I thought that was a Xanax. So a lot of times when people are using, they don't even realize what it is they're using because they don't know where they're getting it from. So with the kratom mixing in with whatever they think is a safe other drug for them to be taking, it could have a disastrous and permanently fatal effect on them because now they're mixing different types of drugs together and hoping for the best.
Biggest problem with kratom is that there's lots of heavy metals mixed in with kratom.
Heavy metals that are bad for the
Like
body.
lead, stuff that's really tough for your body to process and that really destroys your energy systems. And so the FDA tested 26 kratom products, and I believe this was in 2020, and they found that all of them were contaminated with heavy metals, nickel and lead. So super dangerous stuff.
But it's also confusing because if the FDA tested that and saw this, why are they not regulating this? Why is this not illegal? Why is this not moved into that class of drug that you should not be able to just attain at the local gas station?
And hopefully, this podcast brings more awareness. There's lots of families and people that have experienced some really adverse effects from kratom that are probably upset with the fact that they could just buy it so easily in a gas station or a head shop or wherever they sell the stuff.
Well, and that's what equally makes it hard for some individuals to come off of it because much the liquor store, it's almost in their face everywhere they go. And so even if they try to cold turkey it or come off by themselves, they're seeing constant reminders because of the easy accessibility.
It's turning into just another thing that is similar to alcohol. It's just so easy to get. And some of these companies that make kratom, they actually spike their product with potent opiates. So their product's stronger. So there's likely fentanyl being snuck into kratom products just to create more dependency and which creates more demand. And then everyone goes, this kind is the good stuff. And then that company makes all this money because everyone's word of mouth. Everyone starts buying red leaf, dragon, whatever it is.
Different than energy drinks when we're, oh, that one has a lot of caffeine. And so everybody's going towards, for the same price, I'm going to go with this one that has triple the amount of caffeine because I really want to get that feeling. That's probably the exact thing that's happening with the kratom is certain brands. And unfortunately, because there is no regulation, they can do that. And even if people are dying, it's
80% of long-term users experience withdrawal. That's a pretty big number. I would imagine that the other 20% is probably just using smaller doses, maybe not every day. They don't experience withdrawal symptoms because they do it a couple days and then they take a couple days off. But it seems that's really difficult to do because 80%
right.
of people experience some serious withdrawal. And then half of those people meet the criteria for addiction, it says here in this study. But I would say all meet the criteria for addiction, just as someone that's been in the field. If you're using a substance that you become dependent on, and you need it to get through your day, you need it to get through your life, you're using it to feel better about yourself or your circumstances. I mean, that's criteria for a medical necessity to treat addiction, in my opinion.
And it's just anything. Nobody starts out wanting to become addicted to anything. That's no one's goal as a child is to be an addicted adult. It doesn't take long before all of a sudden every day there is that necessity. Either there's a crisis situation where they want to disassociate from it. There's this happy celebration that they want to use to celebrate with it. Your mind starts to come up with reasons as to why this is the best choice for you to make at that point in time. And then before you know it, you're now physically, mentally, spiritually addicted to the substance. And we see what happens with that. Then can lead an individual down a path that is definitely not pro survival and trying to support this harmful addiction that they now have. So,
Yeah.
Tom, let's talk about warning signs for family, friends, people who might possibly know someone that might be struggling. What are some warning signs that they can be aware of to see if their person that they're thinking of might have an addiction to kratom?
I mean, finding large packages that are powdered herbs or tea or capsules that are labeled not for human consumption is definitely a lot of people order this stuff online too. It just can be shipped to your home and it has this subtle labeling sometimes. So just keeping families keeping an eye out for that kind of stuff. Sometimes you have to become a detective. So if you're suspicious, maybe look in the trash. What are you finding in the trash? Are there bottles? Are these big bags with powder residue? Things like that, you
And what
know.
are the physical symptoms families should be looking for? Because if someone's on meth, you can tell because their eyes are super dilated. If they're on heroin, their eyes are pinned. What are some physical manifestations that an individual can have that might lead you to think they're on kratom?
Mood swings for sure. Someone being very irritable, and in some cases, seeing someone paranoid. So there's a sense of paranoia that can come along with using the substance. There could be odd sleep habits, the hyper rapid speaking, but then there's a big contrast to that behavior later that they're not acting the same throughout the day. So ups and downs with their personality. Secretive behavior too, or very defensiveness. That's what you can see a lot when someone's dealing with addiction. Anything that someone confronts them, what's going on? There's so much defensiveness. That's usually an indication that they're hiding something.
I think it's interesting because we had talked about in the beginning how it's being marketed as a holistic type powder substance. And it's funny because in the health food world, those are good things as you have your all natural herbs and things. And so a lot of us healthy people can have that type of stuff around where it looks we're truly trying to be healthy and it's a good thing. So I could see how that would be such an easy cover for somebody where they're, oh no, these are just my healthy herbs. This is my healthy tea. And you're, oh my God, I'm so glad you're being healthy. This is so great. And they don't realize that it's actually just almost a front, like the old days where you would have the fake can over the drug. So you couldn't tell that the drug was in there. It's almost like this fake front that's being promoted as a healthy herb or whatever it is. And it really has all these detrimental effects. And I think another good warning sign is we talked about the physical dependency on it. And with that, people start to need it to quote unquote feel well. So I think you might watch people who they'll go from feeling really good to now they're really sick to all of a sudden they feel better again. And so there's this almost well and sickness thing that you start seeing with them a lot that is more an indication of them needing the drug and then getting the drug.
And another warning sign for families, a simple one, and I definitely want to touch on the withdrawal symptoms that someone could be experiencing. But a warning sign for families is unexplained financial strain. And then you mix that variable in with the moodiness and some of the other things that I mentioned, you're probably dealing with some addiction related issue. But the withdrawal of this stuff is terrible, just like heroin. So muscle aches, sweating, vomiting, anxiety, insomnia is probably one of the worst symptoms of opioids. And that can last for three days, 7 days, and in some cases with heavy users, it could last 2 weeks.
That's if they're quitting and going cold turkey, and most people aren't willing to go through that, and this is where they start going, "Well, let me have a few drinks to take that edge off. Let me smoke some weed so that I'm not experiencing these side effects," and this becomes dangerous territory, so they start implementing other things to circumvent that illness, but now they're mixing these things, so it makes it even more dangerous.
So Elevate, we have detoxed a lot of people safely off of Kratom. And it's actually recommended that if you're a heavy Kratom user, that you seek medical help. So going to a facility ours where you have doctors and nurses overseeing your detox and you're in a safe place, but there's medications to make this less painful. And some of the things that get prescribed are clonidine, gabapentin, anti-nausea medications, and sometimes sleep aids. And with the really serious users, they could be prescribed the similar drugs to a fentanyl user or a heroin user, Subutex or Suboxone in those serious cases. Going to detox can make quitting a little bit easier. And so you have and it is going to still be hard. It always is hard to quit something that's similar to heroin. There's going to be worse sleep and whatnot, but there's a way of making those symptoms less bad. We're not the biggest fans of medication, but you're likely going to need some medication to get through it because the willpower to go through those symptoms for a long period of time is often not there. You have to really be committed. That's why we have programs where we can help people through that super tough period of time where people couldn't do it alone.
And it doesn't have to take a long time because of the doctors, the nurses, the specific medications, the personal touch that we give. We get people through the detox part of the program fairly quickly. I think people are consistently surprised at how quickly and safely we can bring people completely off of the drugs that they're coming in on. And sometimes that's where the battle can begin because people start to feel better and I'm fixed, I'm good. But this is where the rest of the program needs to come into play because it's great you're now not physically addicted, but you haven't done anything to handle the triggers that you're going to see when you leave and see that Kratom store down the road. So detoxing is one thing, but then actually addressing the addiction is a second part of it. And that's just as crucial as the safe way to get people off drugs is now you have to almost reprogram your life to operate without it. And that's best done in the safety of a facility or the overseeing of an outpatient where they're diligently checking in and doing all the steps. But there has to be the second part of it. It can't just be the detox from the drug.
What made you reach for that drug to begin with? Sometimes we get lost and don't even realize there likely is a reason. There's something going on inside you
There's
that
always a reason. There's always some childhood trauma that we're trying to contend with in adult life that we don't even know is there. There's always an underlying trauma there. And if you know what it is, you wouldn't be affected by it. So I don't usually know what it is. And that's why you need the help of other professionals to help you figure out what that is so that you can identify it and then not suffer from that any longer.
that's what we do in treatment. We uncover what that reason is. What was it that didn't feel whole, to where you needed to grab something to make you feel better about your life or yourself or whatever circumstances that you're struggling with. Closing thoughts, Kratom is not a natural supplement. And that's what it's marketed toward as a natural thing that really downplays how severe that this can get. And it's very addictive, it's unregulated, and it's dangerous. And I think all families, and if you're a Kratom user, you should treat it with the same level of concern as you would treat yourself if you were using fentanyl or heroin or some of these harder opiates. There's support out there. There's proper medical detoxes, recovery support, and you can break free from this and get help.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom. I'm so glad that we were able to get some advice and words out there about Kratom. It's one of those that we just don't hear about. We're seeing it more and more on the front lines of people coming in and addicted to it. So hopefully we can put some more awareness on it, answer questions, be here as a resource, whatever it is that you need. We're here to help anybody through that process, even if there's just questions, concerns, or you just don't know. That's also why we're here. We don't expect your average person to know. And so that's why we're here to help be that person for them.